The tiny elephant calf didn't understand why the world felt so quiet that morning. The savannah usually greeted him with warm rumbles from his mother and the playful bumps from older calves. But today everything sounded distant, like a memory drifting on the wind. The day opened with soft gold light washing over the tall grass, and for a moment the whole world glowed as if painted with sunlight. But beneath that beauty, something heavy waited in the air, something the calf could not name, though he felt it deep inside. His small feet pressed into the cool earth as he followed closely behind his mother. She moved slower than usual, her huge body swaying unsteadily. Every few steps, she paused to inhale sharply, a low cough shaking through her chest. The calf nudged her leg, seeking comfort in her familiar scent, but she barely responded. Her trunk brushed over him softly, then drooped again. To the calf, this was simply another morning, but to the rest of the herd, it was a silent warning. Elephants understand sickness long before it is spoken. Around them, the savannah woke in gentle waves. The tall grass swayed back and forth like a breathing ocean. Warm wind carried the smell of dust, blooming acacia flowers, and distant water. Birdsong floated from the treetops, light and cheerful, unaware of the shadow forming over the herd. Sunlight caught the top of each blade of grass, making the land appear silver, as if dew had turned to tiny mirrors. Not far away, a solitary black rhino grazed near a dry patch of shrubs. His thick skin was scarred from past battles, and every movement carried the heavy authority of a creature who trusted no one. He snorted at a flock of guinea fowl that scattered before him, his horn slicing a clean line through the rising heat waves. He didn't look toward the elephant herd. He didn't care about their quiet tension or the small calf pressing close to his mother's leg. Their world was separate from his, and he preferred it that way. For now, the calf stumbled over a root and pitched forward, landing in a puff of dust. He blinked in surprise as dirt clouded his eyes, then lifted his trunk to blow it away. The squeaky puff he produced made even an older cow in the herd rumble with gentle amusement. The calf tried again, this time managing a tiny spray of dust that drifted lazily upward. For a moment, the herd felt lighter. The calf's innocence was a warm reminder of how life continued even when shadows pressed close. But then the mother elephant froze. Her massive legs trembled, her ears drooped. Her breathing grew rough and uneven. The calf pressed against her side again, confused by the stillness that had suddenly taken her. She tried to step forward, but her foot missed the ground. Her head dipped, and she stumbled. A few elephants reached their trunks toward her in alarm. The matriarch rumbled deeply, summoning calm. But the tension spreading through the herd was impossible to ignore. Overhead, vultures had already begun circling. The calf lifted his eyes toward the sky, watching their slow spirals. He didn't know what their presence meant. He only knew they made him uneasy. Their wide wings cut across the pale morning light like dark blades. The mother tried again to move. She took one slow step, then another. But suddenly her strength gave out. Her front knees buckled. Her massive body lowered, shaking the earth when she finally collapsed. The sound echoed across the open plains. Dust exploded around her and drifted upward in curling brown clouds. The calf cried out, a high, panicked bleat that broke the morning air. He walked in frantic circles around her fallen shape, nudging her trunk, pulling on her ear, trying anything to make her rise. Her eyes blinked slowly as she reached out with her trunk, barely able to touch him. Her breath came in painful shivers. The herd gathered around them, forming a protective circle. Giants stood shoulder to shoulder, rumbling deep messages of grief and warning. But even they knew what the calf didn't, that the mother was fading, slipping away like mist in the morning heat. The black rhino finally lifted his head. The collapse had sent vibrations through the ground, and his ears twitched at the unfamiliar sound of an elephant calf crying in distress. He snorted softly, more annoyed than curious, and turned away. Save for a few predators, the suffering of other animals wasn't his concern. The savannah had hardened him, shaped him into a creature who survived by ignoring everything except threats and food. But something in that cry carried across the grass, like an arrow, sharp, lonely, trembling with fear. The wind changed direction, brushing warm air toward him, and with it, the scent of the struggling elephants. He grunted, staring toward the distant gray shapes. They were too far away to bother with, yet he couldn't bring himself to return to grazing. Something deep within him, almost forgotten, stirred. The herd shifted nervously as the mother's breathing grew weaker. The matriarch took a slow step back. She rumbled to the others, a deep, trembling vibration that warned them to prepare. Predators loved moments like this. The fall of a giant never went unnoticed. And indeed, from the far line of rocks, a pair of hyenas watched with hungry interest. The calf stayed pressed against his mother's face, crying over and over, begging her to rise. When he didn't understand, it was impossible. He tried harder. His tiny trunk traced the wrinkles of her cheek as if touching her could bring her back. She moved only a few inches to nuzzle him weakly, her final gesture of love. Then her eyes closed, and her body settled completely into the earth. The savannah fell silent. The herd released a long, deep rumble, the kind elephants make only during mourning. The sound rolled across the plains like thunder, trembling through the ground. The elephants touched the mother's body gently with their trunks, each saying their goodbye in their own quiet way. But when the matriarch stepped back, the rest had no choice but to follow. Water was far away, and the calves still needed to survive. Staying meant risking the entire herd. The orphaned calf didn't understand. He followed them for a few steps, then stopped, torn between instinct and love. He looked back at his mother. He looked at the herd moving away. His legs shook with confusion. Finally, he ran back to her, crying louder than ever. The herd paused for only a moment. Their rumbles were full of sorrow, but then they continued walking, slowly fading into the heat-blurred distance. The calf was alone. Wind swept across the plains, lifting dust around his tiny frame. The vultures circled lower now, sensing the change. The hyenas crept closer, shadows moving through grass and far away. The black rhino lifted his head again, this time fully alert as the orphaned calf's final, trembling cry rose into the glowing morning sky. A cry that would change everything. The sun climbed relentlessly, pouring heat over the savannah, turning the golden grasses into waves of shimmering light. The distant rumble of the herd's footsteps faded as the older elephants moved toward the waterhole, their heavy bodies swaying with careful purpose. The orphaned calf trailed behind, too small and too weak to keep pace. His legs trembled with every step, and his tiny trunk flailed nervously as he called out in desperate squeals for his mother. But the only reply was the hollow rustle of grass and the faint cry of birds startled by his panic. The herd had gone, leaving him alone with the smell of dust, drying blood, and the lingering warmth of his mother's fallen body. He paused beside her, pressing his forehead against her side, and nudged her gently with his trunk. Nothing moved. He lifted his ears, trembling, and let out a high-pitched wail that echoed across the plains. The sound carried farther than he imagined, reaching ears he could never have expected. From the edge of the nearby rocks, shadows shifted, eyes glinted between tufts of grass, glimmering with hunger and anticipation. Hyenas, their laughter cruel, high and piercing, floated through the dry air, and the calf froze. Every instinct in his tiny body screamed danger, but fear tangled with grief. He backed against the still shape of his mother, shrinking as the predators closed the distance. The first hyena slunk forward, its spotted coat blending with the shadows. It circled, sniffing the air, licking its thin lips. The calf tried to make himself appear bigger, flailing his trunk and stomping the ground, but his movements were clumsy, almost comical in their desperation. The hyenas saw weakness and circled closer, their sharp teeth catching the sunlight in brief flashes. Dust rose in lazy clouds around the calf as he stumbled backward, each step uneven, each call more frantic. Suddenly, the earth trembled beneath him. A low, vibrating thrum grew louder, a drumbeat rolling through the plain. The hyenas paused, their ears twitching. The thrum became thunder, pounding closer, shaking dust from the grasses. From the shimmering horizon, a massive shape emerged. The black rhino. His thick hide glistened under the sun, and his horn cut the air like a dark spear. He snorted, stamping the ground, and the hyenas froze, unsure. The calf, too frightened to move, pressed his forehead closer to his mother, trembling violently as he watched the approaching protector. The rhino charged, each step shaking the earth in a rhythm that matched the calf's racing heart. Dust exploded from his hooves, twisting in chaotic spirals around the startled predators. Hyenas scattered, yipping in alarm, some tripping over tufts of dry grass as they tried to retreat. One bold hyena turned to snap at the calf's hind leg, but the rhino pivoted sharply. Horn lowered, and the pack scattered in a flurry of teeth and fur. The plain seemed to vibrate from the collision of instinct and courage, and the calf's cries faltered, caught between terror and awe. When the dust settled, the rhino stood alone between the calf and the empty horizon, his sides heaving, nostrils flaring. The calf blinked against the sunlight, staring at this massive armored figure who had appeared from nowhere to protect him. Slowly, he stepped forward, unsure, his legs still weak from grief and fear. He pressed his trunk against the rhino's side, trembling. The rhino froze, momentarily startled by the delicate weight of the tiny elephant, but he did not move away. Instead, a soft exhalation rolled through his nostrils, almost like a question. "What are you?" The calf's cry rose again, small and vulnerable, echoing across the open plain. The rhino shifted slightly, lowering his head in acknowledgement. He was no longer just a distant observer. He had become a shield, a guardian against the cruelty of the wild. The hyenas had retreated to the shadows, licking their wounds and reassessing the battle. But the rhino did not pursue them. His focus remained on the trembling calf, who pressed his forehead against the rhino's flank, seeking warmth, safety, and the faintest hint of reassurance. Time slowed in that moment. The sun climbed higher, yet the world felt suspended in the quiet aftermath of chaos. Dust motes danced in golden light, highlighting the enormous contrast between protector and orphan. The calf's small ears twitched, listening for any hint of danger. The rhino's sides rose and fell steadily, a steady rhythm in a world that had been nothing but unpredictable terror moments before. The calf nudged his tiny trunk along the rhino's rough skin, testing the limits of his new companion. The rhino remained still, patient yet alert, his horn angled slightly forward, ready to defend at the first sign of threat. Slowly, the calf's cries softened into gentle hiccuping sobs. For the first time since his mother fell, he felt a flicker of hope. He understood instinctively that the rhino was here to protect him. Around them, the savannah held its breath. Birds circled warily overhead, their songs subdued, as if unsure whether the world would remain safe. The wind shifted, carrying the smell of dry earth, crushed grass, and distant water. The shadows of acacia trees stretched long and protective over the plain, mirroring the unexpected sanctuary beneath the rhino's shadow. Even the vultures, once circling in quiet anticipation, lingered at a cautious distance, as if recognizing the delicate balance that had shifted. The rhino lowered his head slightly, nudging the calf with a rough but careful motion. It was not aggression, it was guidance. Step by step, the calf began to move, following the enormous creature as if following the rhythm of the earth itself. Each stumble was met with patience, each frightened squeal met with calm presence. The world had been terrifying moments ago, filled with death and loss, but now it was possible to imagine survival. Even in the heat of the harsh savannah, the hyenas stayed at the edges of the scene, watching and waiting for weakness, but none came. The rhino's sheer presence was a statement. This calf was under protection, and in that simple act, the orphaned elephant learned his first lesson of trust in a world that had already taken so much from him. That as the sun rose to its peak, casting bright golden light over the plain, the calf pressed closer, leaning against the rhino's massive shoulder. Dust drifted lazily in the heat, wind whispered through the grass, and for the first time, the orphaned calf felt less alone. The chaos had passed, but the memory of danger lingered, sharpened by the lessons of survival and the rare, unexpected kindness of another species. The rhino's ears twitched at every sound, every small movement in the grass, but his body remained a barrier between the small elephant and the world's cruelty. And though the calf could not yet understand it fully, he sensed that life, though fragile and unpredictable, had given him a protector, a guardian, a reason to keep stepping forward. For a few suspended moments, the heat and dust and distant cries of scavengers faded into the background. The calf's trembling body found rhythm against the rhino's side. Survival, it seemed, could arrive in the most unexpected forms, and in the quiet heartbeat of the savannah, between the fear and despair, hope had found a place to grow. The first light of sunrise spilled slowly over the savannah, painting the grass in pale gold and stretching shadows long across the earth. The orphaned elephant calf stirred, pressing his forehead into the rough side of the black rhino who had become his unlikely guardian. Dust motes floated in the warm air, catching the soft light as the rhino shifted slightly. Acknowledging the tiny presence beside him, the calf blinked sleepily, then nudged the rhino's massive leg, testing the silent promise that had carried him through the terror of yesterday. The rhino snorted, a deep, slow exhalation, as if saying, "I am here. You are safe." Step by careful step, the calf began to follow. The rhino moved with deliberate patience, each heavy footfall sending ripples through the dry grass. And the calf copied, sometimes clumsily, his small legs struggling to keep pace. Every so often, the rhino would pause, allowing the calf to catch up, nudging him gently with a side swipe of his horn. The calf's trembling eased as he learned to trust the rhythm of his protector, the pulse of life moving steadily beneath the coarse, gray hide. It was an awkward partnership at first, but in every pause, every cautious step, a quiet bond was forming, stronger than instinct, born of necessity, and perhaps something deeper. From a ridge not far away, a small jackal pack had spotted the pair. Their sharp eyes glimmered with curiosity, sniffing the air for opportunity. The calf froze, ears stiff with anxiety. A soft growl vibrated through the rhino's chest, low and warning. He turned his massive head, nostrils flaring, eyes narrowed. The jackals hesitated, sensing the formidable presence between them and the young elephant. With a single snort, a sound like rolling thunder, the rhino stamped the ground. Dust exploded around him. The jackals backed off, retreating into the cover of brush, wary of the unexpected protector standing between them and the calf. The calf pressed against the rhino's side, sensing the safety radiating from the immense body. The morning heat rose, and the calf struggled to stay hydrated, stumbling towards sparse patches of shade beneath the thorny acacia trees. The rhino adjusted his course, moving deliberately between sun and shadow, ensuring the small elephant never lingered too long in the scorching sun. When the calf tripped over a hidden root, the rhino's horn swept close, steadying him. The calf looked up, eyes wide with wonder and relief, and mimicked the rhino's deliberate movements, awkwardly copying each step. For the first time since his mother had fallen, he laughed, a tiny, hesitant sound carried on the wind was passed in this slow, delicate rhythm. The pair moved together across the rolling plains, a silent testament to an unexpected friendship. Dust rose in lazy waves, insects hummed in the heat, and the distant calls of other animals marked the passage of the morning. The calf's confidence grew with every step, his trust in the rhino absolute. Each stumble was met with patience, each hesitant glance acknowledged with calm assurance, and as they moved, the savannah seemed to hold its breath, watching the extraordinary bond form beneath its vast sunlit skies. From above, rangers patrolling the plain noticed the duo. At first, they thought their eyes betrayed them, a rhino guiding a tiny elephant across open grass, a sight no one could have imagined. They approached cautiously, their trucks humming softly over the dry earth. The calf froze, unsure, then pressed close to the rhino, sensing the subtle tension in the air. The rhino, ever alert, shifted slightly, signaling the calf to stay calm. The rangers slowed, speaking in gentle tones, their presence careful and measured, not wanting to frighten either animal. They had seen orphaned elephants before, but nothing like this. The decision was made to intervene. A tranquilizer dart was prepared for the rhino, its purpose not to harm but to ensure the safety of both the small elephant and the massive guardian. The rhino's ears flicked, nostrils quivering as the dart approached. With one deep breath, he felt the inevitable numbing in his muscles, but his gaze never left the calf. The young elephant, sensing the change, stepped closer and placed his tiny trunk against the rhino's horn in a silent farewell. For a long moment they stood like that, connected in trust, their bond unbroken despite the looming separation. The dart took effect slowly. The rhino's massive legs trembled, his weight lowering as he leaned against the earth, muscles softening. The calf pressed close, pressing his cheek against the rhino's rough hide, whispering the small sounds of comfort he had learned from their shared journey. When the rhino's breathing slowed and his eyes finally closed, the calf backed away reluctantly, his legs unsteady, before allowing the rangers to guide him gently toward the waiting truck. The humans moved with care, speaking softly, offering water and warmth, but the calf's attention remained on the figure lying behind him. Once the calf was secured, the rangers ensured the rhino's safe recovery. He was monitored closely as he stirred, waking in a haze of sunlight and distant sounds. His eyes swept the plain until they rested on the empty patch of grass where the calf had stood. Slowly, recognition flickered. The calf was gone, yet the memory of their journey, the shared steps and shared breaths, lingered like an imprint in the rhino's mind. He snorted softly, a sound heavy with both loss and quiet pride, acknowledging the small life he had protected. The savannah exhaled with the morning wind, brushing the golden grass in rippling waves. Birds lifted from the treetops, insects hummed in a renewed chorus, and distant elephants trumpeted faintly from a nearby ridge. The world moved on, indifferent yet gentle, carrying with it the traces of compassion in the most unlikely form. In the small moments between sun and shadow, life persisted, fragile and beautiful, shaped by courage and care. The young elephant calf, now resting in the safety of the wildlife orphan sanctuary, slept beside the warmth of new companions, but the memory of the rhino's protection never faded. Every time he stumbled or became uncertain, he remembered the slow, steady steps of his guardian, the quiet patience, the strength that had kept him alive. Somewhere across the plains, the rhino watched from a distance, standing tall once more, a silent sentinel in a world both cruel and kind. Perhaps the savannah, in its vastness and unpredictability, taught lessons humans often overlooked. It spoke in whispers of trust, in moments of courage, and in the quiet acts of protection that could transcend species. In the soft light of dawn, as wind rippled across the golden grass, it seemed to say, life is merciless, yes, but within that harshness exists unexpected kindness. And sometimes, family is found not by blood, but by choice, by instinct, and by shared survival in the endless dance of the wild.